We want to express our heartfelt appreciation for all of the friends and family who have reached out in love this week. I posted the news of Dad's death on Facebook, and though I certainly didn't have the bandwidth to respond to the hundreds of comments and texts that I received, I read every one. Thank you for loving your parents and us, and we appreciate you. When my sister and I were talking over plans for the funeral, I knew I wanted the opportunity to stand and pay tribute to our daddy. When I opened up my laptop to start putting my thoughts together, I didn't know how to begin. How do you summarize 86 years of life in a few minutes? How do I possibly convey what my dad has meant to me and to any of us in just a few words? My prayer is that angels will attend us today, and they will help communicate what I cannot, that they will speak from my heart to yours, and that you and I will come away not just with a better appreciation for Dad, but with ideas about how we might better live our own lives and better love each other, that we might ponder the legacy that we live for the people within our own sphere of influence. Our dad has left a legacy of confidence, humor, education, generosity, gentleness, devotion, and personal growth. When I was growing up, Dad would gather us for family prayer at night, and many, many nights would say things to me like, Kristen, you could grow up to be the first female president of the United States. Now, I would literally never want that job, but imagine the confidence that it gave me to know that my dad believed that I could do something like that. As a mom of 8 and an elementary school teacher, I believe in this quote by Brooke Hampton. Speak to your children as if they are the wisest, kindest, most beautiful and magical humans on earth, for what they believe is what they will become. Dad believed that too. One night when I was a little girl, there was this scratching at my window and it was scaring me. My mom told me, like, don't be worried about it, but I was still worried. So my dad told me to get my shoes, and we walked outside to investigate, and we discovered that there was a tree branch that was tapping at my window. I felt so seen by my dad that night. When my ex-husband asked for my hand in marriage, Dad told him something to the effect that he trusted me completely, and if I thought that this guy was good enough to marry, then he must be, and he would give his blessing. When that marriage came apart so painfully last year, after 26 years, Dad held such beautiful space for me. He listened to me for hours and continued to believe in my ability to pivot from a stay-at-home mom to a full-time working mom, to weather all those storms and to show up for my children. He soothed my broken heart by saying things like, you have always been a princess, and you deserve to be treated as such. He would talk about the wonderful days that were ahead for me. He also told me he had a feeling I'd be remarried by the end of the year. That particular confidence was definitely misplaced. I am in no hurry to remarry, but I love that he held out hope for me, that I could find a partner who would love and adore me and my children and take care of us. That unwavering confidence has been a foundation upon which I have been able to achieve and become so much more than I would have without it. I hope that I'm instilling that kind of confidence in my own children. When I shared the news of Dad's death and how much it hurt with a child and friend, he messaged, I'm so sorry that you lost your biggest fan. And that is exactly how I feel. Dad was my biggest fan. And I hope my children feel like that I am their biggest fan. Not only did Dad show confidence in me and the other children and grandchildren, he also showed great confidence in the Lord. He had a very strong testimony in the power and protection of prayer. And he had told my sister that he would pray each morning before he went to work to take care of his patients. He could feel the strength in doing that because the handful of days throughout his 40-year dental career that he forgot or was in a rush were the days that things did not go as well. It was a powerful lesson to him learned over many years. Dad had a fun sense of humor. When I was a little girl, he would come home from work every day, grab one of my feet and say, nice to shake your foot today. I did that to all of my kids, and sometimes I still do it to my 2 youngest kids, so as to continue to pass on that foot shaking legacy. When I was upset, he'd sometimes come in and do something silly. He'd either nuzzle me himself and he'd go nuzzle, nuzzle, or he'd get one of my stuffed animals and kind of do the same thing to help me feel better. A friend remarked in a Facebook comment that she appreciated Dad's under the radar sense of humor. He was smart and witty, and he had a twinkle in his eye to let you know when he thought he was being funny. I'll miss that twinkle. Humor is a huge part of my own family culture. I gave birth to a child even funnier than I am, so the humor genes live on. When Dad was growing up, his uncle was an anesthesiologist. He would tell us about how that led him to pursue a medical degree as he wanted to be able to provide well for his family. Mom's Uncle Rod was an OB in Castro Valley. Uncle Rod pulled my dad aside and asked him if he'd ever considered dentistry. He could still be doing something that was medical related and be a dentist, but have more regular business hours. I think we're all grateful that Uncle Rod helped him make that pivot so that he could be more available for us, whereas Uncle Rod delivered hundreds of babies even in the night. Fortunately for us, Dad's education also ended up with him getting that prestigious internship at Stanford so that we could be here, and it brought him to California and we could grow up in Pleasanton, which is pretty much about as ideal a childhood as you could get. Dad has encouraged many children and grandchildren to get a degree. How grateful I was that because I had heeded that advice, I had a career to fall back on, but I needed to provide an income for my family last year. But whatever I learned about education at BYU from 1996 to 2000 was surely outdated. That degree meant that I could walk into a teaching job, provide health benefits and income for my family as a single mom, and have summers off with my kids. Dad was coming to understand that a degree isn't always the advantage in today's world that it used to be, but becoming skilled and educated was still very important to him, whether through a college or through some other means. He'd been a huge cheerleader of my oldest daughter in nursing school. She actually took nursing school exams yesterday, right before getting on the plane, and cheered on other children and grandchildren through their paths to gain any type of education. Because of his education, he's a great provider for our family. We had all that we needed and so much extra, but he never stopped learning. He was often learning interesting things on YouTube or reading articles. One of my children said the last thing she did with him was they watched a documentary on communist China. Like, it was like all kinds of things. And he even did a study of Isaiah and delved into the Bible in the last few years. I remember him telling me about that. Dad and Mom were both very generous, and I'll share just two examples. When I was at BYU, I found out about this wonderful international student who was working really hard, but had a visa that didn't allow him to get a job. He was in desperate need of funds and was maybe going to have to go back and not complete his degree. And when my dad heard about that, he stepped in and provided financial support to this young man he'd never heard of or known before.